Hello, and welcome to Tiffany Teach Tuesday. Today, I'm going to be discussing the tenant screening process from the landlord owner perspective and from the tenant screening perspective. I'm going to start out with the tenants, and because this is very important. Lately, I have been getting a lot of phone calls about some of my old listings being put up on, especially TikTok, and people are getting scammed out of money. And when I've spoken to some of the individuals, my first question I ask them is based off of the price of the unit in that area. That should be an indicator to you that this is a fraudulent ad. Like, where you're going to get an apartment in this neighborhood at this price point, whether it's higher or lower. Because some of the apartments, I'm like, that's expensive for that neighborhood. That should give you a red flag. And then some of the apartments, I'm like, that rent is very low for that neighborhood based off of what they posted for you to see. Now, what we have done at our property management to avoid this issue occurring again with our listings, as our new listings, we are now watermarking them. However, check the information before you start giving people money for background check. You can verify if a company really exists or not, if they're a legitimate company, and verify people just by doing a simple Google search. Like, and in some of the in most of the videos, at the end of the video that I've done, I said, if you want an additional information, please call our property management at 773-568-1138. And if you, at the end of most of my videos, which will give you an opportunity to look into who was this giving this fraudulent information before I start giving them my confidential information for a background check. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about 5 flags when screening a tenant. The first issue that most tenants, when you're completing the application, and this is for the landlord, and a red flag on the tenant part is not completing and providing all the information in the application process. An incomplete application draws red flags. Like, you need to put the information they're requesting because they're trying to verify your employment, verify your housing, get references for you. And if you have a company that doesn't care about an incomplete application, they just want your money, then that's a concern that you might want a red flag for a tenant. Like, I done did this application, they only took half the information. They're not asking for any information. They're going full throttle, and I haven't even done the complete process. So for a tenant, you should also make sure that you have all of your check stubs for a month, that you have um verifiable income information. Secondly, hold on, I'm trying to get my notes together. I'm sorry. So that's the first thing, having your check stubs, having your bank statements, the things that you need to verify for your income. The second thing is, so that's the verifiable income. As landlords, people provide you check stubs. You need to verify the employment outside of a check stub, because as an individual, people make check stubs all day long. I mean, technology has advanced. They can put into chat GPT, create me a check stub, and they got a check stub for you with the right information. So you should be contacting those companies and verifying with that organization that this person really does work here. Even if they give you a letter, a starting letter, they give people letters of off job offer letters. You still can call the company and verify, do they really, is this a legitimate offer? Are they really going to provide them with this job? The third thing is prior evictions. Now, that's a little tricky here right now in Chicago, because some of you tenants have been getting your records sealed. But if it's before 2000, I'm at the point now, if I see an eviction before 2020, your probability being able to rent from us is going to be slim to none, because after 2020 they've been sealing you all records, so I can't verify not. So if your income is not strong and I have to go back 5 years instead of 7 years on you, I'm going to make sure that you haven't had any evictions in the last 7 years, because of how the system is right now. Inconsistency in your rental history. And that is an issue too. People who are transit, that is a red flag for me. Like, you moving every year, what's the problem? Like, why aren't you staying there? Because I like longevity of tenants. I have tenants that have stayed with me until Jesus called them. And I have tenants who have been with me for 20 years. Like, those are considered great tenants. You don't want somebody that's always moving, because it's costly to move for the tenant as well as for the owner. So we want someone that's going to stay for a while. The next thing is your attitude, the owner as well as the tenant. If you are already having issues with the tenant during the application process, you might want to reconsider renting to them. Because what we're not going to do is be arguing and having discord and you not being responsive before I move you in. Because I tell people all the time, how you show me who you are when I meet you, I believe you. And I'm going to not rent to you if I'm already having issues with you prior to me moving you in. And that's the same as for a tenant. If you're already experiencing issues with the landlord before they even gave you the place, why are you moving there? And I'm also a firm believer in, if you're not happy where you're at, move someplace that make you happy. Nobody's forcing you to stay here. And I tell owners all the time, don't force tenants to stay. Don't coerce them to stay. If they want to leave and go someplace else, allow them to do so. So I'm going to recant the 5 red flags in renting. The first one is an incomplete application. Second one is unverifiable income. Third is prior evictions. Fourth is inconsistency in the rental history. And 5 is hostile and evasive communication. So make sure as a tenant you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed. Have your funds to be able to pay for background checks. These background checks have become very expensive. And as an owner, I don't see why you need to screen 10 people when you only got 1 unit. Our model here, our property management, is to screen 1 tenant at a time, because we only have 1 unit to rent out. When that tenant does not, the first applicant does not qualify, then we move on to the next one that's in the queue. So be mindful, because these are some expensive application processes, especially here at our property management. Our application fee is $100 per person over the age of 18. We also require that you provide your child most recent report cards, because if your child doesn't go to school, we won't rent to you. We believe that a child should be in school learning. If you're homeschooling, that's even better, but you got to provide documentation that the state say that you can homeschool. Because I have learned over the years of being in this business, sometimes my tenant's children are more of a problem than the actual tenant that is paying the bills. They're at work all the time. They're not monitoring what their children are doing, and it brings issues to the building. And what I don't have time for is to babysit and watch somebody's child, to tell them how they're supposed to behave and act accordingly. And I don't want you to tear my place up. But if your child is in school and you care about their academic performance, they're more likely to be a good tenant as well. So we do look for that. Credit scores, we don't care too much about your credit score. We're more concerned about the type of credits you have. If you have any outstanding utility bills, if you have an excessive amount of credit that will prohibit you from being able to pay your rent every month. That's more of an importance to us. We care about your character. If people call and do character reference checks all the time, make sure you let your people know that somebody's going to be calling to check on their character. And last but not least, just be mindful of who you give your information to, people that are looking for rentals. And make sure the company is a legitimate company before you provide them with your sensitive information. There's a lot of people out here scamming in the real estate industry and taking people confidential information and telling them they're going to give an apartment to them that they don't have rights to even rent to them. So again, thank you always for signing in and logging in to Tiffany Teach Tuesday. I'm not sure what I'm going to come to you with next month. I have some things to talk about, but I haven't quite decided yet. So don't forget to tune in next week, Tuesday, next month on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, and catch me, Tiffany, with Tiffany Teach Tuesday.